Welcome to A Curious Couple, a podcast where we foster a healthy sense of curiosity by asking questions about anything and everything. I'm Angie.
And I'm Aaron.
And this week we are going to dive into the first card of the tarot deck.
Yeah.
That is the Fool card.
Yeah, because we're all fools.
We
just haven't accepted it. I mean, maybe we've accepted it to different levels, different degrees.
Before we jump in, let's talk about our challenge from last week.
Okay, what was our challenge, Ange?
So our challenge last week was to experience some queer media.
And you definitely did that.
All the time, unintentionally. No, the new Hell of a Boss episode dropped for those who follow Apology Tour, and it was probably the best written episode of Hell of a Boss.
It was really good.
It was fantastic.
And the song was fantastic. It stuck in my head.
I know, the music.
Na, 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 na.
But again, adult language. We don't have that E yet. The thing that I loved most about this episode specifically is this gay couple, and they're just the worst communicators ever.
Terrible.
They're terrible, but they both have trauma and they both have baggage and they're both
in pain.
They're both in so much pain.
And both of them just want to be loved. Mm-hmm. But they have so many walls up that they can't.
Exactly. And so the thing that I loved about this episode, and my hell of a family I think will appreciate it, is I think we're finally going to get an arc for Blitz.
How dare you use the O?
I know, I spelled
the O
it.
is silent.
I spelled it in my brain. But no, just in general, I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful way of storytelling and gorgeous characters. And I just, well done, Vivsy. Well done.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. I think what really made it special and made it impactful is the character that usually doesn't listen actually listened.
Okay. Here's the thing with that.
He had to listen.
He had to listen. So I think his biggest issue is the reason he doesn't quote unquote listen is because he gets so defensive. He just yells and gets angry. Like that's his automatic trigger there. But because he was he was literally at a party full of all the people that hate him, a hate this character party.
What was it called? Like a hate Blitzo party or something like that?
Hate Blitzo party.
Yeah.
All the people he's ever hurt are basically there.
All his exes.
Well, he had to listen because he would have been found out. And
he's
so
in disguise.
He's in disguise.
But they're like throwing darts at his picture. The cake is his body.
His shape, like they have t-shirts. This party has merch.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going way off on this. I love this creator and this story and these characters and the openness and love that comes from them. Also, it's just beautifully done.
It really is.
It's just
my only qualm with the whole series is why is none of the music on streaming?
Right?
I need to just be able to listen to the music from this series.
I want to hear Brandon Rogers and I want to hear Bryce Pinkman. I want to hear, I don't remember the voice actor who voices Veronica, but I want to.
She's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Oof. Also, with queer media, they're just drawn so sexy. And she's just money. She's might beautiful. Be my new favorite.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Oh my gosh,
and
she's
got a
gorgeous.
Great little dialogue with Blitzo in this.
She does.
Yeah.
She really does.
It was a good episode. So hopefully you also were able to look into something that maybe you hadn't looked into before. Mm-hmm. You know, broaden that spectrum.
Horizons.
Exactly. But like Angie mentioned today, we are going to be talking about tarot. We're taking a little bit of a shift and we're talking about the tarot deck. Boop. Yeah, we have several tarot decks.
I think I have 10 decks.
And I have 3.
I win.
As if it was a competition. No. But we're going to be talking about, it's actually way funny how we picked the topic. Angie shuffled a deck and she drew 3 cards and handed them to me face down. And she's like, all right, pick one of these and that's where we're going to start. And so I picked one of the 3 and it was literally the Fool card.
Right? Literally card 0.
Yeah. The beginning of the major arcana. And it's so fitting because the Fool card really sets up the entire journey of the tarot. And so we're going to dive in kind of deep on this, but I think before we get in too much, right? Before we get too deep, we want to put some groundwork down, like lay the foundation. And so what I want to do is start with, what is tarot? I feel like that is a good place to begin this because, I mean, people have a very different relationship with tarot. I've met people that have loved it and have used it for years. And then I also have met people who are scared of it, that think it has demonic imagery in it. And
I just think of like Frollo in Hunchback, and he's like, oh, witchcraft.
Yeah. And, you know, it's really neither of those things, but simultaneously both of those things. It's really broad, but it's a powerful tool. You can use it in many different ways. If you believe in higher powers, then you can use the deck to draw cards and get perspective outside of yourself. But if you don't believe in a higher power, you can literally just use the cards as archetypes, as stories and characters that help you realize deeper parts of your own nature. So, Ange, you are our resident witchcraft master here, having 10 decks.
I just love artwork.
What is tarot?
Oh boy, what is tarot? Well, like Aaron was saying, it's a, I guess you could call it a deck of archetypes. Each card has different symbolism and different storylines and different interpretations. Every deck that I've ever looked at and any person I've ever talked to interprets the cards a little differently.
Of course.
And I think for me, that's something beautiful. And personally, I think that the cards are just another way for you to be able to listen to your intuition. Because I think subconsciously we know which paths we want to take and what decisions we want to do. But it's always kind of nice to see an outward representation of, yeah, that's the correct way, or nah, that's not the correct way. And I think tarot is a beautiful way to interpret that. Interpret?
Yeah.
Interpret that. Another fun thing with the cards, specifically with the major arcana, it goes through a storyline from number to number. And starting with the Fool, it is the literal beginning of that journey. I went through and
yes,
pulled
you found
them out.
it. I thought we should do that, so we have the imagery
Exactly.
at hand. We can take a look at it.
If you're looking.
Yeah, but then as far as archetypes go, really, what is an archetype? I feel like I like defining these words. I like defining these words because they become commonplace. And when a word becomes commonplace and used frequently, it loses some of its meaning.
Like literally.
Like love. You know? When you just use this word to, because I hear that all the time, lead with love. Oh, just love and everything will work out. And it's true. But what is love? We get lost in that. And maybe we can do a whole episode on love at a later date. But archetypes. And then we'll have a whole episode of Angie singing random little one-liners as I talk.
Which one of us has ADHD?
Both.
You hyperfixate and I'm off in La La Land.
I hyperfixate, guys. I had a friend text me today and they were like, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm like, "Let me tell you everything about the sun and the stars."
Halloween, guys. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. New Scorpio moon on Halloween.
I also want to throw a Blitzo party.
That would be fun, but we got to be very intentional about this Halloween. Halloween, we're getting there. We'll get to Halloween. Anyways, archetypes. So archetypes really, the best way for me to describe or define my understanding of them is they're a template of aspects of our nature that we may or may not be aware of. And so when we read these stories and study these archetypes, what we do is, in a sense, we're studying deeper pieces of ourself, which is really powerful.
Would you argue that most people have all the archetypes within them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I just think of, so another word that gets thrown around all the time, especially in this day and age.
Gaslighting.
Yeah, that one for sure. But the one I was going to use is, because gaslighting is not an archetype. That's a that's a behavior. But the word I was thinking of is a narcissist.
Yeah.
We use that word all the time. I see it on Facebook. I see it on the TikTok. I see it everywhere.
Which is healthy. I'm proud of us for learning deeper things and more words.
Exactly. But people use it as like this ultimate insult or this ultimate, like, they're a bad person, they're a narcissist. And you're like, oh. And yeah, a narcissist is a pretty toxic person. But narcissism is an archetype. It is within all of us. We all have pieces of narcissism. And it's actually taught to us in the Greek parable where its name comes from Narcissus. The point that I'm trying to get to here is we all have pieces of this archetype. I know when I started looking at narcissism, I'm like learning about it, and I was like, holy crap, I think I might be narcissistic. Yeah, as you study it, you're like, wait, oh shoot. And that's what these archetypes do. They help you see things that are deeper. My last little tangent that I want to get on before we dive full head into the Fool card.
It's not the last tangent.
It never will be. But before we dive in, it will be the last tangent before the actual, meat of the episode, is meditation. I've been doing a lot of study on meditation lately. I've really been trying to focus on the foundation of all things. My two spiritual goals and personal goals right now are meditation and root chakra. And with meditation, I've learned that it's not what a lot of us think it is. Again, there's different levels of understanding for these concepts. And so at first you think meditation is sitting down and just being quiet. And yes, that is a part of it. But meditation, the true act of meditation, is to become still like a lake, a gentle, calm lake. And when a lake is calm and undisturbed, it's a mirror. It literally reflects all things above it, and it reflects it perfectly. Now, before we do any type of meditation, our lakes are not calm. They are stormy, they have white caps, and they're in all sorts of different states of turbulence. And so the act of meditation is to calm that lake so that you are able to remove the conditions of your own perception and see reality in its full truth. Because if you throw just one rock into a still lake, it creates ripples. And those ripples create distortion in the reflection. As small as they may be, it is a distortion. And so the act of meditation is to calm that. And these archetypes help us do that. You cannot address an issue or solve a problem until you know the problem exists. And these archetypes are a tool for us to do that. So that is my rant. Thank you for hanging on.
So then the archetype of the Fool. Yeah. How are we the Fool? What is the Fool inside us? And is that a negative thing? Because I feel like Fool in general, it just automatically sounds like jester, idiot, silly.
Which is funny because those are literally synonyms for the card, the jester or the idiot. And yeah, let's dive into the Fool card. So as we talk about this Fool card, see what parts of it you may or may not be exploring in yourself, because like Narcissus, there is a negative trait to these archetypes, but there's also a positive trait. There might be something that we're missing out on.
Yeah.
Because we are scared of the Fool. We are turning away from the Fool. And so the lesson might not be to abandon the Fool, but to embrace it more full-heartedly.
Agreed.
Or in different degrees, depending on where you're at.
Right. I think a hot button word is delulu right now. Be delusional. Yeah. And I feel like the Fool really embodies that delusional aspect that people are talking about.
It definitely does.
But going back to just like basics of the card. Top of the card gives us 0, which is literally the cleanest slate, the beginning of beginnings. This card is very representational of the start. And it also can be number 22 in other decks, which is also the end of a chapter.
The symbology between the numbers is the Fool is the beginning, but all beginnings are the end of something else.
The circle of life.
Yeah, you can't be out of shape and also be in shape. You have to end the out of shape phase to enter your fitness phase. You have to end the procrastination phase to begin your hyper-productive phase. With every beginning, there is a subsequent end or a subsequent death. The card isn't as hard as the death card.
No, it's definitely not as... it's got more of a positive, lighter feel.
Absolutely.
Than death.
Absolutely. The death card is a lot more intimidating for people when they get it in a reading. But because of its numbering, it is connected and also not connected to all other cards in the major arcana. Like Angie was mentioning, it symbolizes a journey, and the Fool is really us embarking on this new journey, taking new beginnings, taking the first step. One tarot book I was reading recently described the Fool as being, it's the beginning of the journey in the Garden of Eden, or the beginning of the garden of life. It's really the first step, especially on a spiritual journey.
Yeah. Tarot is so old
and layered.
It's so layered, which is why it's beautiful. And if you have the opportunity to look at the classic writers' artwork, there's so much symbology in the coloring and the symbols of the clothing, and I can see where it would be a journey of Adam and Eve simply because it's very nature based. They're looking up to the heavens.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful because of all the different symbology in it. And within that symbology, there's also astrology and different elements. So the Fool card is an earth element card. I mean, sorry, I said earth because Avatar. Earth. Fire.
No.
Air. It's an air card, guys.
Yeah, it's an air element. The Fool has the air element, but and like Angie was mentioning, it does have a planetary ruler, so it's associated with the planet of Uranus. And so if you remember from our astrology episode or from your own astrology understanding, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. And so the Fool has a lot of Aquarius energy to it, where it's unique, it's individualistic, it is rebellious because he's not conforming to the way things are. He is out trudging his own path.
Exactly. And if you look at the imagery, even just the way that he's positioned on the card, he is open. It almost looks like he could be like frolicking or dancing, which we've had experience with this. Most people don't frolic or dance through the streets or the mountains, and if you do, people are like, well, that's weird.
You should try it.
You should try it.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
I frolicked through the parking lot of Target the other day listening to my Beyonce album. It was empowering, but I got several weird looks from teenagers. But teenagers is a hard age because that is the age where it's like conform or die. So
or be outlandishly
it.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I secretly learn how to do cool eyeliner, so like 13-year-olds think I'm cool.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh man. But okay, other elements with the card, like I said, layered. Every tarot card has a position on the tree of life.
Yeah.
So as we get into tarot, you may want to look up, and we'll put a link for a good resource for this, but the Kabbalistic tree of life is a series of spheres and pathways that describe how all things become manifest. So if you're into manifestation, this is literally the map of how all things are manifest. And it is, the Fool is placed in the very first. So it is between the spheres of Kether and Chakma. Kether symbolizes the crown or the beginning, and Chakma is understanding. So it is that step between higher divine knowledge. Again, if you got to think of the chakras now, because the crown is our highest chakra. It is our connection to source, to all things. And then Chakma is understanding. So it is that bridgeway. It is that first step from divine intuition into understanding.
So like we said a million times, layers. Breaking it down, the key meanings, general meanings, and most tarot, I mean, not that I'm speaking for all tarot readers, but in general, the Fool card represents innocence, risks, new beginnings.
Absolutely.
And for those who are just listening, I'm going to give like a brief description of the card in case you're not looking at it, because the next little bit we're going to get into the symbology. Symbology? Is that a word?
Yeah, symbology.
Look at me.
Symbolism.
Symbolism.
Yeah.
Big words for Elmo. So the image itself is of a young man with a traveling stick with a bag on the end. I don't know what that's called.
Think of like a hobo stick.
Like a little hobo stick.
Yeah, he
like
got all
Snoopy.
his goodies wrapped up in a little bag.
A little sack.
And tied it to the end of a stick. And it's over his shoulder.
It's over his shoulder. And then he's holding a white rose. Sometimes it's represented as a butterfly, but traditionally it's a white rose. And he's standing over like the edge of a cliff, basically. And he's looking up at the sun. There's a big, beautiful sun behind, mountains in the background. And then by his ankles, there's a little white dog that looks like it's like barking or gonna bite his ankles.
Yeah, it's not biting him, but it is trying to get his attention pretty desperately.
You know, like little white dogs.
It's pretty eager for some attention.
Oh, I had Maltese growing up. Feels. But in general, that's kind of what the card would look like.
Yeah, the foreboding nature of the card is it looks as if he is in mid-step.
Yes.
Like he is actively walking, and from our vantage point, it appears as if there is nothing beyond him. Like he is at the cliff's edge.
He is on the literal edge.
But he doesn't see it because he is looking up, head in the clouds. Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of that risk symbolism is. With this imagery, he's this innocent, young adventurer. Just, it's very Bilbo Baggins.
Oh, man. Yeah. At the beginning of The Hobbit, like, I'm going on an adventure. Like, that is...
He's like skipping down.
That is the energy of this card.
That is the energy. There's
no
excitement.
idea what's ahead of him.
None. And there's so much joy and a little bit of fear in that.
Of course.
But for the most part, we're living in that sunshine and that excitement, leading with hope and idealistic rather than practical logic here. And he's certainly, especially when you're looking at the outfit, he's not dressed for traveling. He's in this very fabulous,
loose-fitting tunic.
And there's colors and gold and...
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
As far as his hobo stick goes, there's not much in there.
No.
There's no room.
There's not. He just brought the bare minimum because nothing's going to go wrong for him. He's so hopeful. He is so hopeful. He could encounter danger, but how else is he going to know whether... We can't see what's over the cliff. Maybe there's a ledge right underneath it. Maybe he's going to fall 20 feet down. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just a simple step. From our vantage point, we don't see what's beyond that little cliff ledge. Yeah, and then what I like about the Fool is really at the beginning, seriously, as we begin life, we are at 0, like the card says.
Right.
And 0 is a really cool number. It symbolically, it shows an egg. Right? So an egg or a seed is full of potential, unrealized potential, but it will never reach that potential unless it cracks the egg, unless it breaks free of the seed.
But it's a rock.
Right? The Fool is cosmic egg, so symbolized in the shape of the number 0. As he journeys through the major arcana sequence, he is a part of every card. And there is symbolism in his card that we then see throughout the remaining major arcana.
Well, I would even argue throughout the whole deck, the Two of Cups specifically.
Oh, yeah. He is definitely pictured in the Two of Cups.
If you can remember the Two of Cups, you've got two figures.
A male and a female raising their glasses to equal level. And then you have the serpent staff, the staff of Hermes, above them. It's a pretty powerful card.
It is.
And the woman in that is actually a depiction of the High Priestess.
Yes.
Which is card 2, so we'll get to her.
These cards are everywhere.
He is almost an observer without a formal value, without having a number associated to the card. It's like he is in a different category. So a part, but not a part of the entire journey of the deck. So he is an absolute beginner. He is about to explore the world, gain experience, and leave behind his status as a 0, a no being. He will travel lightly without the baggage of commitment. The Fool is the dreamer, led only by his needs and desires. And you see that in his prance and in where his gaze is, for sure. And like we mentioned, with his belongings, he is not tied down by anything. He's not tied down by material possessions, by what he may need along the journey. He's confident that whatever he needs will show itself or reveal itself to him, that he will come across those tools as they become necessary.
I just realized he also has like There's no, I don't know. I don't know what's in this little bag, but it's just thinking of like people and relationships, and it's it's the beginning of the journey. So I don't see any
fresh start.
Yeah, I don't see any relationships really, which kind of refreshing.
It's cool because if you've looked into Buddhism, they say that all suffering comes from attachment. And so him carrying very little, like truly just the essentials, is showing that he is on that journey of non-attachment.
Right.
That he is beyond physical possessions and even emotional baggage and relationship problems, or even the beautiful natures of relationship, because he's alone. His only companion is this dog.
Well, and I don't know, maybe we're giving him too much credit, because there's also the fact that he's young. He is young. I hate the word naive because it's been used to me a lot. I've got trauma with that word. But naive is another word
Just
that you
inexperienced.
Yeah.
But that is, you can't have experience at the beginning of a journey. You have yet to experience it.
So he's usually depicted as a youth, and the fool must grow into a man, into the next card in the tarot sequence, which is the magician.
I love the magician.
Magician is very cool and very powerful.
The magician is where you gather tools.
Well, talk about the magician a little bit. An individual who knows life and has identified what he needs to succeed in it. So he has gone through the fool's journey to become the magician. He's leveled up. He's Gandalfed up. And the fool on his journey will collect in this bag the 4 symbols of the minor arcana, which are the cup, sword, pentacle, and wand. And these items are, in essence, what he needs to survive. The cup to drink from, the sword to defend himself, the pentacle or coin for financial abundance and success, and the wand to connect him with the higher self. At this stage of his journey, he has yet to discover the power and meaning of these objects. When he fully understands their purpose, he may progress to the next stage of his life, ready to morph into the number 1 card, the magician. Even though the number is 0, his preceding card is the world card.
Yeah.
And literally full circle here. The world is understanding everything, collective unity, rather than single, alone, starting the journey.
Yeah, exactly. The fool's element is air, which is actually very fitting because as we see him, he's really about to take this step off of this cliff and go headfirst into his adventure.
His sleeves even look like wings.
They're blowing in the wind, and his head is up in the clouds. He is a dreamer for sure. The fool's letter is Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It has no sound. It is the breath, the chi, the life force of the universe. Life begins with a breath. As the fool is the beginner in life. Aleph commonly means ox for endurance, and also instinct, which drives the fool on his journey. So he is driven purely by instinct. He has no map. He doesn't know where to go, so he's trusting in that instinct. I know as I've gone on this journey, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to start trusting your instincts, especially when you have some exoteric conditioning, which is the kindest way I know how to say this, because I'm not upset about the conditioning of, but it is conditioning, because in our faith, we were taught actively to suppress that intuition. At least suppress that intuition, especially if it is something that is contrary to what has been formally handed to you by those up above.
Doubt your doubts.
Yeah, doubt your doubts before.
Oh no, I triggered something.
No, that's not what intuition is. You have intuition for a reason. It is guiding you. And yes, it is a lot easier to just put your faith in someone, something, some organization, or some teaching, because that can tell you what to do. It's so much easier to have a list or a map than to just follow your intuition.
If you ever pull the Fool card, the general wisdom that he's trying to spread here is leap, but look first.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's what the dog is telling him.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't want to give the Fool the idea that he's stupid. because he's just excited, he's hopeful. But for the most part, if you took in general any person and took them to the edge of the cliff and had them jump, I feel like most likely they would look down first.
Absolutely.
It's just kind of a human instinct nature thing. And with him being so survival instinct based, I feel like, and that's how you're going to learn too, by looking and collecting all the data. He's a blank slate here.
Yeah. One thing that I did find on the Fool card is, again, he is associated with the crown chakra. But he's also associated with the root chakra. And that's symbolized in this dog. The dog is symbolizing his more animalistic, more survival-based nature. So if you can't just wander off into oblivion, you have to be grounded in this reality in order to make a lasting journey or a lasting impact. Because if you just full-heartedly jump off the cliff, I mean, when you start looking at spiritual awakenings and higher levels of understanding, a lot of the times if people aren't ready for it and they scratch their third eye open before they're ready, like using psychedelics or you know, whatever it may be, if they open that third eye, it will lead to psychosis. But
if we're going to dive into this reality, spiritual journey, whatever you want to call it, I believe that we are here for a purpose. So to completely just throw that reasoning and reality throughout the window, you got to have balance. You got to have both. You can't just live in the spiritual realm. You can't just live in the earthly realm. Yeah.
Again, if we travel down the arcana, the devil card, it symbolizes people that are just so attached to material possessions, to earthly possessions, that is their master. But you can't do either extreme. And so that's what I like about the Fool card, is it is the crown chakra, that connection to higher spirituality, but also the root, being grounded, listening to your root.
Yeah. You got to learn to listen.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And that's really his biggest message of wisdom, is leap but look first. Like
exactly. Let's dive into some more of the symbols. Perfect. Like the actual symbology, because I'm going to use that word all the time now. Symbology within the card.
Yeah.
So in the rider, I don't know why this is so hard for me to say. The rider wait. Yeah. The Rider Waite Tarot. Wow, that's really chewy for me.
It's just two last names.
I know, but it's hard. Rider Waite Tarot. Oh, man. So let's talk about this white rose here. Or sometimes it's represented as a butterfly.
Yeah, and when it's a butterfly, it's cute because he's like following it.
He's just so cute. Full of butterflies. So white, obviously, for those of color theory, it stands for purity and innocence, which this card is that blank slate of innocence, and nothing has gone wrong yet.
Yeah, there hasn't been any lesson to learn.
And some cards with that butterfly, that is a symbol of dreams and spirit. And with this also being an air element, any air element cards usually have wings or butterfly representation within it, because it's air elements are also more of the spiritual realm, more of that that crown chakra mentality.
Yeah.
Where Earth meets the sky, basically.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because as we get into the minor arcana, air element is depicted as swords. And swords cut both ways. And so there's a lot of danger with the air elements, like we've mentioned, being lost in it. But air also is a depiction of thought.
Yes.
Of what you're thinking. And so, yeah, he might be lost in his thoughts. He might...
For good or bad. For good or bad.
Yep.
And another white imagery we see here is the sun. And this is a sign of consciousness and the workings of the mind that are directly expressed. So as the sun rises, it illuminates the fool's world, showing it all the things in the best possible light. He's not looking in the darkest places right now. Everything is just lit up and
optimistic and hopeful.
Sunrise, the beginning. Very much so, all in that theme. And the sun is white, which links the Fool's chakra and the crown, purity of spirit. Again, color theory. A lot of times the sun is seen as gold in future cards in the deck, with the Lovers and the Sun card in general. Death, temperance, that's because of experience. Because within color theory, when you start with white, yellow is one of the first colors that starts to seep through. And that's one of the first colors that really starts your journey, because it's also part of that. It's one of those happy, more peaceful emotions where it goes with joy and excitement and hope. That is what encompasses that card. It's only when you incorporate reds and blues that things really start to get more complicated.
Yeah. I really like how the sun transitions from white to gold as you travel through the deck, because it's a more mature understanding. It's a more mature light, because you've comprehended the darkness. The Fool hasn't seen any darkness yet, and so it's just that pure white light. But in order to understand what love is, you have to have tasted hate.
What is love?
Yeah. In order to understand the beautiful light of the sun, you have to go through the darkness of the night. Yeah.
And he hasn't done that yet.
No.
It's also, I feel like if birth.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, and maybe this just because Inside Out 2 just came out, but how sweet is it that Riley's first emotions and first lights are white into gold?
Yeah. Weird.
Weird.
As if people know that. Yeah, no, stop. I can't get on a soapbox here. Oh, man.
Let's talk about the stars, love.
The stars?
Yes.
Okay. What about the stars?
Orion and the Hunter.
Oh, we still have his red feather to talk about.
Feathers.
Yeah, because the Fool has a red feather in his cap, which
red.
I like whenever red shows up in the tarot, because red is showing you passion and energy and fire and desire. He is not timidly going on this journey. This is something that has lit up his soul for him to embark on this adventure. Now, just because he hasn't experienced the danger doesn't mean he is oblivious, or obtuse, thinking that there would be no danger.
Right.
The red feather shows that he's determined and driven to make this happen. But yeah, so let's get into the stars, his astrology. As we were looking at the Fool card, I was surprised to see that the Fool card is actually associated with the constellation Orion. I had no idea. Did you know that before this?
I had dabbled in how astrology has some of the same symbolism, but I had not actually sat down and seen, oh my goodness, the way that the Fool is positioned is literally the same positioning as the Orion constellation.
Yeah, it's very similar, and Orion is such a cool constellation. Look at it.
Look at it.
Look at the card. Orion is such a cool constellation because it's a very clear one. Many of the constellations, you're like, how is that a lion? And maybe if I tilt my head and squint my eyes, I can see it. But Orion is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Orion symbolizes the Fool because Orion is a hunter. And like our ancestral roots, we come from hunter-gatherer people. That's really how we started building communities.
Yeah.
Now, the Fool shows himself as being alone and isolated, but our ancestors, that's what banded them together. They figured out they could hunt larger prey when they hunted together. They figured that they could, diversify the tasks and get more done if they had one person specializing on the gathering and one person specializing on the child rearing and one person specializing on building the houses.
It's really boring if you're by yourself all the time.
Yeah, so Orion and the Hunter and the Fool, it really is the beginning of how we built our communities, how we started to create society, which I think is really, really powerful. Now, if you remember back to our astrology episode or the Stories in the Stars episode, Orion is associated with the Scorpio constellation. Yeah, Orion was this beautiful youth, and he befriended Artemis, and Artemis had taken a vow of chastity, but she was starting to fall in love with Orion. And so Artemis's brother Apollo was like, don't like this. We got to get rid of this Orion guy. And so they make this scorpion Also, Orion is really boastful. He's really prideful. I remember him saying that he would hunt everything on the planet. Like, there was no prey he couldn't conquer. Lots of pride.
Remember how we said that there's toxic sides to each card? I think there's a lot of pride in starting out the beginning with full hopes and high spirits, where it's just like, nothing's gonna go wrong, nothing can hurt me.
Yeah,
Orion.
I'm invincible. Like,
Orion.
There's no cliff edge. But yeah, Orion, his downfall was pride. And I think it's so funny that it was a scorpion, because Scorpio embodies our sexual organs. It is our death and rebirth cycle. It is our subconscious. It is the darker aspects of ourself that we have to look through in order to master our Scorpio energy. And the Fool hasn't done that. He hasn't seen any night. He hasn't done any shadow work. He
Not
hasn't
yet.
seen, exactly, not yet. But he's still just as prideful. Like, look at me. Look how great I am. I'm out here in this world conquering it all on my own. Like, I can do anything. And so the Fool card is warning us of that pride. That pride is truly the deadliest of the deadly sins, I think, because it's the hardest one to cast off.
It's the gateway of sins, I think. I
Yeah.
think any other sin could be linked into pride.
Yeah, and it's because, like, I deserve this. Like, look at how great I am. I deserve you. And and then the fact that Orion is destroyed by Scorpio, it's just saying that, yeah, be careful of lust. Like, lust is just as deadly. I love looking at the 7 deadly sins because they teach you lots of lessons too.
Archetypes.
But
We're so weird. Who's listening?
oh man. But yeah, Orion's downfall really is his pride and his lust. But yeah. So I really like that we can learn that from the Fool card itself.
I feel like that's like sum up any serial killer. That is their downfall.
It is. No, it is. And that's why, again, these things are archetypes. They're within all of us. We all feel moments of pride. Heck,
We could all be serial killers.
yeah. And like, whenever you feel jealousy or superiority, that's pride.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know. It's hard because, I mean, I still struggle with pride daily. We were at the splash pad the other day, and you know, you see people and you see the way that they're choosing to live their life, and I'll have
Are you talking
these...
about the shirtless dude?
No, like anyone and how they're choosing. Like, you see these people and you're like, oh, like, you have no idea, or oh, you're so basic, or oh, you look like you are a terrible father, or oh, you look like, oh, look at that mom, like, she's not even paying attention to her kids, she's just drinking her swig cup and scrolling social media, or look at that person. Like, we kid ourselves that we don't do this all the time. Like,
yeah.
You go to the store and you see a family, and like, the mom punishes the kid a little too harshly for what you would feel is appropriate, and you instantly go like, oh, like, she must not be a good mom. And it's like, bro, no.
You don't
Stop
realize
it.
this toddler's been doing this for 12 hours straight, and the mom's on 2 hours of sleep, and
You
we're
have
human.
No idea. Yeah. I had somebody telling me a story the other day about being yelled at by a stranger and how upset they were to be yelled at by a stranger. And it was like, yeah, but you don't know what that stranger had been going through, or you don't, like, yeah, sure, they shouldn't have yelled at you. That's not okay. But to judge them as an inferior because they gave in to their anger, their impulse of anger, you can't do that. Have you never given in to your impulses of anger? Have you never felt just that fire of injustice? Like, I need to snap to fix this right now.
You've never flipped somebody off as they cut you on the highway.
Yeah, we all do it. And when we start to recognize how judgmental we are and how prideful we are, you start to see it everywhere. Like, yeah. I don't know. I'm not trying to like boast or anything, but I've been studying these things for several years now, and it's still in me.
Of course.
It's still in
We're
there.
Human. We're
exactly.
human.
It's still in there. And so what I'm saying is it's still in you. Be aware of it.
Can I be
and
super prideful right now?
Be prideful.
So, okay. I took my kids to the splash pad today.
Yeah.
And those were literally the thoughts I was having in my head. Where I'm like, just looking at all the other kids, and I see the dad, and I see the mom, and I see the friends. And then I caught myself, and I'm like, oh, shoot, if I'm thinking that way about them, what are they thinking of me?
Exactly.
And I'm just like, well, I know for me that this is the first kind of mom break I've had all day. So I'm reading a book. That doesn't make me a terrible mom. So them chatting with their friends, playing on their phone, being who they are, they're still good people. And there's still so much good energy there that how rude of me to just assume all these things. So it was a little check. It was a little like, mental check for me.
No, I love that because it happens. It does.
It does.
And it will happen. Like I overhear people talking about sports teams or politics, and my head it'll trigger real instantly like, how basic. And then it's like, no,
basic.
like, no, I don't know where they're at. I don't know what they're going through. For me to quantify them as basic because they're talking about something that I don't enjoy. Like how awful of that is, like that's wrong
Absolutely.
of me to do.
Absolutely.
And that's what Christ means when he says, judge not lest ye be judged.
Wait, love?
Yeah.
Love?
Because that's what that means. We are all constantly judging each other all around us. And what you'll find is as you do this, especially when you're able to catch yourself in the moment, because you'll see it. You'll start to see it when you're aware of it. You'll see that your own walls are going so high up because you are judging them and you're so scared of that same judgment being pushed back on you. Yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about once you start catching it.
Okay, tangent done. Back to the Fool. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. What was that? Didn't catch that.
Okay, cute moment. Our toddler does this all the time. She will poke her head in. Not toddler. She's 6. She's getting big. She will pop her head in, knowing that I'm busy, knowing that I'm working on something, just so she can do Aang's little sorry. Because we've raised our kids on Avatar.
Judge us all you will. It's a beautiful show.
Yes.
Pokemon and Avatar and Frog and Toad.
We just started that one today. It was pretty cute.
It was very cute. I read all those books when I was younger, so.
I remember them. Not very clearly, though, but I remember seeing them.
I read all. I had them all. I read all of them.
I had the Dick and Jane books.
See, I didn't read those.
My mom was big on the MacGuffin readers. Like old school books. Yeah, I read all those books.
Which is why you're so literate. Look at you.
So, Ange, as our tarot reader, I know we've gone off on some tangents a little bit, which I apologize for, but
I'm sorry.
as our resident tarot reader, what would it mean if you drew the Fool card in a reading? Maybe talk about the upright and the reverse meaning. And then we can move on into our challenge.
Yes. So if you were to draw the Fool in an upright position, I would say that it's a reminder that all beginnings are also endings. And it's more on the hopeful, exciting part of that journey where it is welcoming in that new beginning, where perhaps you just ended a relationship and you're looking for guidance on where to go next. This is exciting. This is new. This is the beginning of your next journey, your next relationship, or falling in love with yourself.
Yeah.
It's that energy of releasing the negativity of an ending and embracing the sunrise of a beginning.
I love it.
Right? It's a good thing.
It is.
It's a good thing. Another way I think you could read it is risk. Anything can be considered a risk, whether it's trying something new or going for a promotion or pushing yourself to do something that you hadn't done before. This card definitely embodies taking risk and going with it, as scary as that may be, and kind of encouraging you to take that step off the cliff and see where it leads you, because you don't know how far the cliff edge is.
Yeah.
And you don't know if there's a ledge there or if it's going to let you fall. But I am of the opinion that everything happens for a reason. So if you were to fall, you're probably going to find another path or something new, or it's going to lead you to the next best thing in your life.
In the right direction.
In the right direction. So, all beginnings are endings. Risk, not always a bad thing to try. Another thing I think you could see with the Fool card is authenticity.
Yeah.
Especially when we were talking about Uranus and Aquarius, really embodying this. It's Delulu. It's going into what is going to bring you the most happiness, what's going to be your most sincere self, what is going to bring you that joy. And though others may see it as foolish, at the end of the day, you are the one that lives with yourself. So what is going to be the thing that brings you joy and peace at the end of the day? So, Aaron, give us the flip side. You draw this card in reverse.
So the reverse meanings are always just a little bit more on the warning side than the upright meaning. So if I got this card in reversed, it would be telling me you really need to look before you leap.
Yeah.
Not so much don't take the leap, don't stop on the journey, but really contemplate the direction that you're heading. Really make sure that you're grounded. When it's reversed, the dog is at the top of the card.
Yeah.
And I think that is more of a prevalent message in the reversed drawing of this. Now, again, these are all open to different interpretations and different understandings, but
visit your local tarot reader.
Yeah, for more. But really, the reverse card, it's just really make sure you're looking before you take the leap. So it's kind of like retrograde energy to me. It's not don't do the thing. It's just rework, revisit, replan, review, and then proceed.
Exactly. I think another way you could interpret it is lack. You're lacking the energy that the Fool would bring. So you're lacking creativity, you're lacking authenticity, you're lacking inspiration, basically. So a way to reverse any of that is literally by reversing the card, starting something new, taking a new risk, embodying the energy that you feel you are lacking.
Yeah. I hear it all the time with manifestation coaches and gurus. It's the universe rewards you as you are now. And so all manifestation work and spiritual work is to alter your current state, who you are right now in this moment, to be a match. The way that like Abraham Hicks would say it is become a vibrational match or vibrationally in tuned. That's what it is. It's just, are you embodying the energies of doubt and fear and anxiety? Or are you embodying the energies of excitement and passion, right?
Red feather it up.
Yeah, red feather it up. And I mean, excitement and anxiety are the same feeling, just without the breath. And the Fool is the breath.
Do we need to watch Inside Out too? Because I feel like joy and anxiety may be very similar.
I would love to watch Inside Out too. I'm just nervous for our girls to watch it. Simply because our girls have just... We showed them Home Alone this last Christmas, and our 6-year-old, who was then 5, just modeled Kevin's behavior, and Kevin's a little snot.
He's not okay. To be fair,
but so are the adults. Everyone
in it,
everyone's calling each other stupid and calling names and cussing at each other. We had a conversation with one of our friends. Cussing is fine. But cussing at someone is a very different energy.
Yeah. Like stubbing your toe when cussing is very different than going to somebody's face and calling them.
Yeah. And that was Home Alone. And our 5-year-old was like, because everyone's laughing at it. And so.
Because it's low-key funny.
I mean, it is, but she was modeling it. And so I just am nervous for her to model anxiety. I don't want them to prematurely model
and someone who
emotions.
Someone who personally is working on her anxiety levels as a mom, I'm already nervous. I'm already anxious about bringing that to my children already. So I feel like embodying it in a beautiful little Maya not Maya. Yeah, Maya Hawke character makes me a little nervous.
But I do want to show it to them. I just don't think their
Maybe when they're-
ages are their time.
Maybe a
But
little
maybe
bit
we
bigger.
watch it first.
Yeah.
I would love to take a look at it because, yeah, anxiety and excitement are the same emotion. You're just not breathing through it.
Yes, I think how do I work through this? Anxiety and joy both have the same motivation. It is something in the future. It is seeing something that's coming forward.
Okay.
The joy of being able to experience something, the joy of being able to create something.
See, and I would argue joy is in the moment, that you can't find joy in the future because the future doesn't exist. And so finding pure joy is living in the moment more so than
Than
then
anxiety, where
is
is living in the
projecting it
future.
in the future. And even daydreaming is the opposite, where it's, oh, I'll be happy when, and you're daydreaming on some future event. You're not finding joy when you're discontent with your current space and situation.
Right. And so maybe joy is the wrong word. I'm thinking more of excitement.
There you go. Yeah. Excitement and anxiety.
Excitement and anxiety.
They're the same thing without the breath.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this week for our challenge, be the fool, start something new. One of the first books that I read in my healing journey was a book by Dr. Nicole LaPera. And I might be saying her name wrong, but the book is called How to Do the Work. And it's a really good book. She has a lot of journal prompts and a lot of shadow work and trauma work in the actual book. But one thing that she said that really stuck with me is we have to start making promises and keeping promises to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because when we make ourselves a promise and then we don't follow through, we are just adding emotional weight to, see, I knew I was garbage. And so the simple act of saying I will do something and following through with it, and it can be as simple as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning.
Right.
That's all it has to be.
Right.
Before you have breakfast, before you have your coffee, before anything, it's like, okay, I wake up and I need to hydrate. And so I'm going to drink a glass of water every morning. That's my promise to myself. It can be that simple. So just make a promise to yourself and follow through with it for a week and start adding this win to yourself versus constantly, like if you make big promises to yourself, like I'm going to wake up at 6 and I'm going to work out for 45 minutes and I'm going to be in shape and I'm going to start tomorrow. And then you don't do it right away, or you do it 2 days and then fall off the bus, then you're like, eh.
Or if you do it one day, hurt yourself, and then you can't run for another 3 weeks. It's fine.
So don't start so big. We, as humans, have a tendency to overestimate what we can get done in the short term and then underestimate what we can get done in the long term. So start small. Really start small and start stacking those wins. And so, yeah. Just drink a glass of water in the morning if it's that simple, or go on a walk at a certain time, or, read a story, even 5 pages of a story to your kids before bed. Like, make a small promise and follow through with it is the challenge.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
Little
You're
things.
incredible.
Little wins.
Yeah. Also, watch yourself on those judgments, because seriously, once you start catching it, it's freaking powerful. It is.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this dive into the full card. If you like this, if you want more of it, let us know. We would love to go through more of the tarot, in-depth explanations on each of the cards. But yeah, let us know.
Let us know, you guys. Thank you for being here. And as always, we are going to stay curious.
Yes. Ask the questions.
Ask the questions.
There's
get
always
the
answers out there. And sometimes the answers you find are wrong. So
or maybe the
be
answers
open.
are questions.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Deeper questions, levels, layers.
Oh, man. Toxic masculinity. I don't know why that was in there.